Hello and welcome to the start of another week here on The Form, and as always during the Spring Carnival there is lots to look forward to, including Derby Day on Saturday and then a look ahead to the Melbourne Cup next Tuesday. Plenty to sink our teeth into. Let's have a look at what's on today's agenda. Justin Evans talks us through the Gore gallops. We then link in with Pip Morris, who gives us a best and value bet from the Palmerston North Greyhounds before an in-depth look at the New Zealand Cup heats and of course New Zealand Cup final. Across the ditch and a chat with Adrian Bott, co-trainer with Gay Waterhouse, who has a really strong hand on Saturday's Derby Day meeting from Flemington. Well, our gallops meeting for your Wednesday comes in from Gore. We're heading south and Justin Evans joins us. Justin, great to have you with us. A Gore meeting, that's a treat for a Wednesday. We've also got an open handicap to look forward to in race number 2.
Yeah, hey Emily, you're good to be back at Gore for this 9-race card, and I guess the feature of the day comes up quite early, doesn't it? Race number 2 for the open handicap stayers, and it's only a small field, but good little competitive race. But funnily enough, it is my best of the day who pops up in this race, Emily. The top weight number 1, he's the class horse of the race, Kilowatt. He's a multiple Cups winner, sort of country Cups king he is down here. He's won a number of them. I think the Tapanui, Wyndham, Gore Cup, he's won them all. So look, he's just second up for this prep for our number 1 barn down these parts, Kelvin and Amy Tyler. His first up run was really good, over 1,400 metres, steps back to the 2,000 second up. He always bounces forward with a big run second up. Look, I think he's got the right form to win. I think he'd be a bit too good for them, actually. He loves a sort of decent track. I think we'll get a pretty decent deck. Should be in that sort of dead range. He gets that 3 kilo claim with Savishka too. That just brings him back to the field a little bit. So the 59 kilos, I think he's won his last 2 sort of cups down here with 58. So, and Savishka too is 1 from 1 on him. There's a heck of a lot of positives, Emily. I think he'll be winning probably the Danger Riviera Rock, but it's been a very long time since he's won a race. Riviera Rock tends to place more than he wins. I thought he was the best of the day, to be fair. Kilowatts, I expect him to win our feature.
Awesome stuff. And I understand that's not your only bet for the day, isn't it? You've got a couple of others for us too.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I was just doing some homework on this track just before I touch on them. From the last 2 meetings here at Gore, have a look at this for a stat. From the 16 races, I just wanted to back up what I thought was the case. I went through and did the numbers. 15 of the 16, the winner was in the first 2 at the 600 metres. So if that's not an on-pace bias, I don't know what is. Of those 15, 5 were in front, 9 were in the trail. So don't know if it's quite as easy as just find the leader, but it'll take you a long way. Look at the last Emily horse called He's My Brother. Now, I don't tend to make too much of a habit of tipping 10-year-olds, I've got to say, but there's not too many around winning, but I think he might be one. He's a 10-year-old. Look, he's in the last race, he's number 1. Now, back in March, he was in the last race. He was number 1 as a 9-year-old, and I tipped him as the best of the day really strongly, and he lobbed for us at $6, so I'm hoping it's a carbon copy. Look, I think this horse can win. 4 from 6 on the track, so a similar record to Kilowatt earlier in the day. He's a real Gore specialist. He's back in class. I thought his first up run was all right. I reckon this is a really winnable race for the old fella. He won't be a bad price. So, look, I think he's a good play in the last, Emily, race 9, number 1. He's My Brother. And the race prior to that is our value of the day, race number 8, a maiden called I'm Here, number 6, who's just had the 2 runs. Hasn't had a whole lot of favours in both. They put the blinkers on last start, was pretty good, I thought, got to the line well, had trialled well before she got to the races. Look, she gets a nice inside gate, gets a key booking here, Tina Kominiagi on. I think she'll really suit this horse. She can park up just off them. I think she'll be pretty dangerous in the straight. So race 8, number 6, I'm Here. Should be a good day's betting, Emily, the 9 of them. Kilowatt best of the day, but really looking forward to the card.
Yeah, awesome stuff, Justin. Thanks for your time and enjoy that meeting.
Thanks so much.
Well, across all 3 codes, it's an important time of year in the Greyhounds. We've got a lot to get through this morning because we've got the New Zealand Cup final, of course, to talk about later on. But for a start, let's have a chat about the Palmerston North Greyhounds.
You're looking forward to this. Of course, a few of the superstars missing, Emily, heading down to that New Zealand Cup. So I've tried to find a best, and I've come up with one in race number 8, a dog called Wi-Fi Wilbur. He's drawn box number 7. It's not an overly strong field. He ran a good 4th at Cambridge 2 starts ago, and I did like his run last start. I think he can improve on that, and box 7 will suit him out wide. So happy to play him the best.
And what about a value for us, Pip?
Look, I struggled, I'm going to be honest, but I've gone for a maidener in race number 2 called Buddy. And he was a little bit just green, he looked like on debut, kind of come out of the boxes slowly and then wanted to angle off. Draws up in box number 3. There's a nice dog from Lisa Cole's kennel in there that won her qualifying trial. I thought they could run the Quinella, and he's definitely a 1/3 kind of play. I think he'll improve.
We talked at the start, obviously, about New Zealand Cup final upcoming. And of course, on Thursday, we've got those Addington New Zealand Cup heats. It's important that we have a little chat about them. Cross races 5 to 11, Pip, 7 heats, as I'm sure you know. The markets are open, and obviously race number 9 features It's Ablaze, and that's probably the most talked about dog, isn't it?
He certainly is, Emily. Of course, hard to go past him. He's the track record holder. He's looking for a hat trick. Gina Dave Fahey, they are the masters of the Cup. They know how to win this race. Of course, they trifected it last year, so very hard to go past him. Have to say, though, he's a little bit short for mine in the futures market at 350, just purely for the fact he's got to win his heat, then he's got to win his semi, and he's got to make the final. So I still think that's short at 350. He's opened up at $1.35 for his heat. Comes up with box 5, and we know he can be beaten sometimes by these wide alleys. And there's a dog called Big Tom Atomic in the 7 was my only worry. He's a hard railer, and if he were to pick the jump there, possibly could just get in the way of It's Ablaze. So I've no doubt that I don't think he'll be qualifying, and I think he should be making his way to that final, Emily. But 350 in the futures market, probably just a little bit skinny. So I did think if you wanted to play it another way and have a look at some of these heats, there's a dog called Raja Bale for Craig Roberts. He comes up in heat number 2, race number 6, I believe, and he comes up with box 8, beautifully drawn up out there. 220 in the market to win his heat. I think he can do that. I think he'll be making his way through the semis. Kind of reminds me of another dog that Craig had called Dinah Dave. Comes from behind. And just to note too, 70% of the winners generally over the 520 come from the first 3. So he's one of those extras that you can actually back that comes from behind. And I think he'll make his way through to the final. He's at $7 for the futures. So I think that's a nice way to maybe have a little play on him just to back off that It's Ablaze.
Obviously, as you said, It's Ablaze short price and a long way to go before the New Zealand Cup final. Outside of those 2 that you've mentioned, is there another one in the final that we can perhaps spec at early odds?
There's an interesting runner called Blink and Lily, and she's actually at a nice price even for her heat for Gary and Sandra Fredrickson from the Central District. She's having her first look at the track, so that's always a query. And unfortunately on Friday, she come together with a really nice type called Mustang Charlie, and he's in the heats as well up at Palmerston North, and that was not the ideal run making their way down. But she's got exceptional speed. She's a sub-30 bitch at Wanganui, and if it reads well and these front runners do win the Cup generally off the pace, I thought she could sneak in. She's $41 in the futures. So I'm not saying go crazy, but I think she's worth it. And $11 for top 3.
Awesome stuff. I love $41. I'll have a little look at that, Pip. Thanks so much for your time and look forward to catching up with you over the next few days.
Thanks, Emily.
Well, awesome to have Adrian Bott joining us now here on the form. Adrian, great to have you with us, and we're looking forward to a huge weekend. What do they call it? Super Saturday, I think, at Flemington, with an awesome program scheduled. And you have one of the top chances, if not the top chance, in the Coolmore Stud Stakes and in the Congo. How has he travelled down to Melbourne?
Yeah, excellent. Look, we're very fortunate. We've got the Flemington base down there. The stable's year-round, so that's well staffed, and we're able to travel them down well in advance of the race. Also had a little bit of time between his run in the Golden Rose, which he was excellent in that race, and the form's well and truly stood up everywhere you look out of that run. So a bit of time between runs. He had a jump out down the straight there at Flemington on Friday. I must say, I guess I was hoping to see a little bit more out of the jump out, but I guess that's why they're there for the first time. He got pretty lost down the centre of the track, and it was all just a bit new for him. We worked him up this morning. Up the straight again, and with the addition of the blinkers, and he's much sharper, a lot more focused, and probably just took the benefit from that hit out as well. Just as I said, sort of being that while between runs. So much happier after this morning's work anyway. So he's in great shape because he couldn't look any better.
Yeah, is he quite a gross horse? He must need that work if you thought to give him a jump out and then the good bit of work this morning.
Yeah, just with the 5 weeks between runs, and obviously having touched such a tough run in the Golden Rose itself. Look, he came out in remarkable order, and didn't look to take any effect from it, and looked very good. But just gave him a bit of an easy time there for those first couple of weeks. So really just needed to crank it up again, going back into the run for him.
There was plenty of talk in the media about the tactics in the Golden Rose, pushing forward and making them catch you, and that worked so well. Would you elect to take those same tactics up the straight with it being a different track, obviously heading to Flemington this time?
Yeah, look, I don't see why not. I think that's his natural sort of racing pattern, and that's his sort of, his assets is that sort of great tactical speed that he's shown, and it's, as we've seen, it's sustained speed. I guess there was probably a question mark over that at the 1400 metres, but we're pretty confident he was able to do that. And look, I think that's what's going to sort of suit him down the straight as well. Always thought he'd be very, very effective in that sense, running out a strong tempo down that run. So as I mentioned, he's had those couple of looks down it now, which he really needed. And I think with the addition of blinkers, we can see those sort of tactics adopted again.
You've also got in the Penfolds Victorian Derby Zoom on. Wanted to have a chat about this horse, Zoostar Gelding, who's been based in Victoria the whole time. How do you assess his chances from a Derby perspective?
Yeah, look, I think he actually could be a really nice chance for us going into the Derby. Just looking at his pedigree, even though he's by Zoostar, he certainly looks to have thrown a lot more to the female line. He's out of a Monsun mare, and we all know sort of how effective that blood is in these staying events. So that reason he was showing he was that staying sort of type in Sydney early in his campaign, and we sent him down early on just to sort of really get onto that Derby path. I feel it's probably a better progression to try and get those horses towards the Derby down in Melbourne, get him used to the system down there. So he's done a very good job in that. Keeps improving every time he steps out. Would have probably liked to have seen him had one more run going into the Derby. I guess he's still just a bit new and a bit raw in that sense, but he is taking significant improvement every time he steps out. It was a really good effort to beat the older horses there the other day for him. He was very strong through the line. As I said, what I just take most confidence out of is the fact that he will stay out a strong trip. So that's certainly a lot of upside there going in.
And also he looks like he's got that tactical speed as well, so he could put himself right there in the race too.
Yeah, he's the sort of type that just sort of get out there on speed and just he'll just keep running all day for you. Yeah, sort of put a few walls in front of him, he'll run through them for you. So he's tough, and as I said, he's learning what it's all about. He was sort of just wandering around there a bit late in a couple of his runs, but every time he was challenged, he responded again. And as I said, that was probably the most pleasing aspect to his latest run when they loomed up. He sort of really surged away with 100 to go and was strong through the line.
You got Riadini in the Kennedy Cantala Stakes, and you look to have found a really nice race here with him carrying the 55.5 kilos. He put in a really good performance in the Chelmsford and the George Main, and then he just had that failure in the Epsom. Did you put that down to the gate, or was there something else at play?
Yeah, look, I think just I thought it was a lovely race for him there, the Epsom, and whether it was a couple of those two hard runs in the weight for age, sort of just on those tracks, sort of whether that just took the sharpness out of him. He just seemed a little bit on the back foot in that entire race there in the Epsom. From the wide draw, he was half a length slow, which meant he had to do a bit of work to put himself into the run. Look, there was a pretty solid tempo throughout and a fair bit of pressure there. So I think no doubt that added to it all. And, the on-pace runners there, certainly didn't sort of really feature in the finish there. So I think he can be forgiven for that. But yeah, it may have just been a couple of factors there. So we freshened him up. He just went out to the paddock for a few days. My wife just did some dressage work and some jumping work with him out of the paddock, and just sort of really got him switching up the routine and just sort of making him a happy horse again. And, he seemed to respond really well to that. Came back, had a nice trial. We're originally going to set him for the Rosehill Gold Cup here. We sort of tossed and turned with Alan about stepping him up to 2,000 metres, just trying to find that tempo where he can be better suited in the run. So that would have been new ground for him. But I guess the luxury of what we've got in Australia at present, so many races to choose from. So we just thought, look, there's a Group 1 here for him at Flemington over the mile where we know he's effective. He looks well weighted, and as I said, with that many options around it just seemed like it was going to be, he'd be well placed in that sort of field there. So hopefully it's an opportunity for him to capitalise. He's raced that way of going in New Zealand, so that sort of gave us a bit of confidence to take him down.
Yeah, and raced in a Group 1, actually. Placed in the Group 1, I think it was the Levin Classic, so that's a plus. Awesome that you get to keep Rachel King on board as well. She knows him so well.
She does, and that was sort of one of the main reasons we also wanted to send him down. Obviously, she's got a great affinity with him, and Alan's loves sort of using Rachel where possible. And when we found out that she was going to be down in Melbourne on that day, we sort of weighed up all the options and got her advice, and no doubt she thought he'd be much better placed down there as well on the day. So she thought 2,000 metres was a risk. So
yeah.
Anyway, it's in fairness, I think we're leaning that way, and it just looked a nice race for him. Got a few more variables, and there's a few Sydney horses here remaining for that race. As you said, it's not black type, and a few that had sort of beaten him already. So we thought, we'll chase the Group 1 glory.
And then in the Lexus Stakes, Knight's Orders looking to get into the Melbourne Cup. Obviously, it's that last-ditch attempt, isn't it, to get into the Cup? Son of So You Think. What have you made of that prep in Victoria? Because so dominant when winning over the 3,200 metres in Queensland. But what have you've made of the prep so far?
Yeah, look, I think he's no doubt been a bit disappointing this campaign. I can't necessarily work out what to put that down to. Particularly his last 2 runs. I thought his first up run was very good. I thought he stuck on very well, and I was sort of forgiving second up, made a few excuses, but last start I wasn't quite sure. So look, want to see an improved performance, obviously on Saturday to warrant starting in the Cup. He's in the field. He's got to run, so sort of no pressure to be winning that race on Saturday, but obviously more so from a form perspective. Want to see him show that improvement. He's proven over the distance, so I'm sort of not concerned by that. And he's had plenty of sort of miles in his legs to get here, and it was a quick turnaround from Queensland. So if we can see that turnaround on Saturday, then he'll be lining up for sure.
Another Melbourne Cup hope is Sir Lucan, and tell me the story about this international galloper.
Yeah, very nice horse, very, very interesting horse. We get in with a amazing lightweight of 50 kilos. Sort of gives us a couple of other headaches trying to find someone to ride him at that weight at present. So we're still just sort of finalising that. Obviously, sort of coming down, we're a little bit outside the field and we're sweating on a run. I think we were originally sort of 40th or so in entry, and it sort of made it hard to get anyone to commit to us at that point. But obviously, sort of getting closer to the race, we've been able to work our way in. Is, I guess, a little bit difficult sort of lining up these Europeans, sort of not having had a run for such a long time coming into these races. We took over his training after his run in the St. Ledger from Aidan O'Brien, and obviously just sort of had to get to know him in the quarantine on that side with the new team, and then with our team when he arrived on quarantine here in Werribee. So no doubt it's been a learning curve all the way through. But I must say, like what we've seen, he's arrived over in fantastic shape. The horses come over such an amazing sort of foundation with their fitness, so you can see why they're so effective in these staying races. But he's freshened up well and looks happy horse going into it. So I think a horse of that class and caliber coming over, when they're in on that sort of lightweight, they've really got to be really got to be factored in. And just his last start there in the St. Ledger, I think we can just sort of put that down to the ground. He sort of wasn't quite effective over there, but his form leading up to that was quite impressive against some quality horses in Europe.
Did you have the option to give him a run before the Melbourne Cup, or was the plan always to go straight to the Melbourne Cup?
The plan was always to go straight to the Melbourne Cup off the St. Ledger, run in England. Obviously, sort of run prior when he ran very well, we were tossing up whether we did bring him down on that first shipment and give him the opportunity to have one sort of further run out here to qualify him. We thought we'd roll the dice, and obviously also in consultation with Aidan O'Brien about his chances of running in the St. Ledger, and obviously a positive run there would have had us featuring sort of very very closely in the in the field. But yeah, we took his advice and kept him in work up there. Obviously knows the system well, and was able to sort of stay in the routine up there as long as possible. And yeah, that seems to have been how they've run most successfully off the cup, I guess, sort of running straight up into the race itself. So I guess we took I guess sort of a bit of a confidence through what's been done in the past and tried to stick with that sort of formula with him.
It must be tough because obviously you don't get an opportunity to really get a feel for the horse, do you? Is it difficult, kind of, I guess, remote training as such?
Yeah, that's definitely the most difficult part. And as I said, we've sort of had to change through a couple of different hands or sort of eyes of sort of sort of teams of people getting used to him, giving us feedback. Yeah, he's sort of gone through this process before with Fiorente. I guess he was sort of purchased similar sort of time and came down and was sort of able to run first up in the Melbourne Cup straight out of quarantine, and he finished second that year and came back the following year to win it. So I guess sort of also having had the benefit of having that experience before, so she sort of understands the facilities in Newmarket, and having been over there so many times over the years, I guess it sort of helps having an understanding of the different facilities available to you, sort of the types of works that can be done. And that's obviously been a big help all the way through.
I noticed in the weather forecast there's a bit of rain around during this week in preparation for that Super Saturday at Flemington. Probably should have asked earlier, but how is that going to affect the runners in particular, I guess, in the Congo, your Derby contenders? Is that a concern at all for any of them?
Look, usually I'm concerned by any sort of rain around. I just love seeing our horses on top of the ground. I think they're much more effective. But particularly a horse like in the Congo, just to use his sort of brilliant sort of speed. But he is effective in the soft going from what we've seen. So as long as it's not too heavy, zoom on. I think it could be as heavy as you like, and I think he'd still run through it. I think it was sort of pretty heavy there the other day, and again, just those Monsun bloodlines, they just seem to thrive in that sort of going. Knight's Order's sort of quite effective. Riadini, I think, would probably prefer on top of the ground. He's not that great on a shifting surface. So sort of varied. As long as we don't get it too heavy, I think they can still all be effective. But I think on top of the ground, we'll see the best of them all.
If we go back to home soil in New South Wales, Golden Eagle, of course, is the other feature that we have to look forward to. Vangelic, fifth in the invitation, and you're going to back it up. Obviously, come through the run well.
Yeah, she has, and I guess that was sort of always the plan, to be targeting this race in particular. And the invitation sort of just came on the radar, sort of 5 or 6 weeks ago, and very hard to say no to a race like that when it pops up. And just sort of perfect conditions for her. Probably just ended up being a bit more pressure in that race than maybe what we anticipated going into it. I thought she sustained that run really well and stuck on very bravely. It may have just sort of been run to suit a few of the sort of back markers in the run. But as I said, I still thought this was a very good effort. She's come through it really good, and she's probably looking towards the 1500 now at this stage of her campaign. Some of her best racing's been at Rose Hill, and she was very effective in the in the Coolmore run over those sort of 1500 at Rose Hill sort of year ago. So I think she can be very effective on the backup for us.
Also got Dawn Passage in the Classique Legend. Tell us a little bit about this one's chances.
Love this horse. He's sort of one of the favourite horses I think I have in training. I'm not sure why I love him so much, but he's just a very, very honest horse for us. Been off the scene for a little while. He's first up, so he's setting a bit of a task here. Obviously, he's taking on a lot of those horses coming out of the Everest and some pretty tough, fit sprinters. So not going to be easy for him, but he does perform well fresh, and we've got a busy schedule for him coming up. There's some nice races sort of on the calendar, late November, December for him. So sort of really need to get him up and racing. Just a 6-year-old entire, just sort of there's only so much you can do at home with them now. He sort of needs to get up and racing and get himself back into some match fitness.
Well, we're nearly at the end, but just wanted to go through Wednesday's Canterbury runners with you just to wrap things up. Race number 1, Formentera, a last start winner when fresh. Has it made good progress since that run? Yeah,
definitely. Obviously off the scene for a long time. He carried, I think it was 62 kilos there to win first up. So good effort there. Certainly hasn't looked to have flattened him by any means. Looks to have trained on really well. So I think he's a horse that can continue to progress through his grades and hopefully keep winning for us.
You'll be done nice and early there at Canterbury because your only other runner is in the second. That's Nothing Sweet About Me, who's in a fresh state. What can we expect from this one?
She's a field that's probably going to show her best over a little bit further, so she may find them just a bit sharp over the 1250 metres. I think once she can get up to a sort of mile and potentially onto 2,000 metres, that's where we're really going to see the best from her.
Out of all those horses we've talked about this morning, I'm going to put you on the spot. Have you got a best winning chance for us across all of those meetings?
Oh, look, if we're just going the easier one, I guess Formentera at Wednesday is probably the most likely out of all those. But on the big card on Saturday, look, I guess taking a lot of confidence from the form through the Golden Rose, in the Congo down there, he's certainly the class horse going into that race. Hopefully we can see him go back to back for us.
Awesome stuff. Thanks so much for your time, Adrian, and best of luck with those Group 1s on Saturday.
Thanks very much.
Melbourne, Australia, the greatest city in the world. And the best time to visit is during Melbourne's spectacular spring for one of the world's most vibrant social and racing events, the Melbourne Cup Carnival. Held at the heritage-listed Flemington Racecourse, the week-long celebration draws over 350,000 people from home and abroad, showcasing to the world a national celebration that is uniquely Australian. The carnival is centred on the 4 greatest race days Australia has to offer. The Amy Victoria Derby, the Kennedy Oaks, the Seppelt Wine Stakes, and the Jewel in the Crown.
And they're racing in the Melbourne Cup.
The Lexus Melbourne Cup. The Cup is the world's richest 2-mile race. Unsurprisingly, it draws competitors from across the globe,
The Blue Army have done it well.
making it a truly international event.
Godolphin win. It was absolutely brilliant.
It's hard to convey the sheer scale of Lexus Melbourne Cup Day to someone who hasn't witnessed it before. But it is much more than just a horse race. It's a 158-year-old social and cultural tradition that literally brings Australia to a standstill. It's an annual celebration that combines the very best of what Australia has to offer. Fashion, food and wine, sport, culture, business and celebrity. The fashion frenzy that seizes Melbourne during Cup Week is truly spectacular. Men and women alike relish the opportunity to dress up and head to Flemington as the racecourse becomes the place to see and be seen. Set amongst the largest rose garden in the Southern Hemisphere, the event plays host to the most prestigious and iconic outdoor fashion event. Over the years, the Melbourne Cup Carnival has attracted some of the world's most famous faces. From royalty to Oscar-winning actors, to Grammy Award-winning performers, to supermodels, and some of the globe's brightest influencers. We invite you to the Melbourne Cup Carnival to celebrate the racing, the fashion, the flavours, and the entertainment in one of the most livable cities in the world. Australia's greatest racing carnival is now a world celebration. Come and share in the magic of the Melbourne Cup Carnival.
Well, that gets the excitement building, doesn't it? For the first Tuesday in November, Melbourne Cup Day. And you can watch all of the action here on Trackside. Not only that, but we'll have a Melbourne Cup preview show, 10 a.m. on the Tuesday morning with myself, Aidan Rodley, and form analyst Luke Radich. You can watch that, TAB Trackside. To wrap up the show, though, let's go through our best bets. That's it from us here on The Form. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show. Tomorrow you'll be joined by Brennan Popperwell. I'll be back with you on Friday. From all of us here at the team on The Form, a very good morning.